Then pass the floor to the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, what our region witnessed yesterday is a natural and inevitable outcome of repeated aggressions and grave violations of international law and the United Nations Charter perpetrated by the Israeli occupation authorities on the territories of my country, Syria, and other countries. In that, these authorities were taking advantage of the support offered by the U.S. administration in this council and elsewhere. This American support, this blind and unlimited American support, has led the occupation authorities to mistakenly believe that they are above the United Nations and above international law and above the conventions and the resolutions that were adopted by our organization for decades. The support led these authorities to believe that they can continue perpetrating their crimes and their escalation of the situation in our region with no response and no consequence. My country, the Syrian Arab Republic, has warned the Security Council and the Secretariat repeatedly in official letters, warned of the dangers of an escalation, of the explosion that the Israeli occupation authorities are trying to spark to cover up for their military failure in Gaza and to find justifications for it to continue its genocide and other atrocities against the Palestinian people and the accompanying hysterical attacks on countries in the region. In our letters, we have repeatedly called upon the United Nations and the Security Council to take immediate action in accordance with their mandate. However, the U.S. administration and a number of its allies have obstructed any movement by the Security Council to shoulder its responsibility in the maintenance of international peace and security and putting an end to Israel's crimes and holding it accountable. The behavior of these countries is nothing new. These countries have prevented for over 7.5 decades the United Nations from shouldering its responsibility to put an end to the Israeli occupation of occupied Arab territories and to return legitimate Arab rights that are inherent to those who hold them and in accordance with relevant United Nations resolutions, at the forefront of which are resolutions 242, 338, and 497. These resolutions are the basic foundation and the essence of a resolution to the Arab-Israeli conflict and the best means to deal with the repercussions of the Israeli occupation on the region, including the crises and challenges that it entailed. Syria holds the Israeli occupation authorities and the U.S. administration fully responsible for the Israeli attacks and any additional escalation that threatens peace and security in the region. Syria stresses that our region has suffered enough from the violations perpetrated by the Zionist entity and the U.S. administration and its allies, violations of international law and the principles and purposes of the Charter. The time has come to take serious action where these states reconsider their destructive policies in our region and against our peoples. The time has come for these states to immediately and unconditionally rectify these policies, including through imposing an immediate halt to the Israeli aggression on the Palestinian people and countries in the region. The states must guarantee full and unimpeded humanitarian access, and they must put an end to the intentional starving of the people of Gaza. Moreover, there must be an end to the illegitimate military presence of U.S. forces on the territory of my country, Syria. We must put an end to the systemic looting of our national wealth. We must put a stop to the sponsoring of terrorist organizations and separatist militias. We demand a full and unconditional removal of the unilateral coercive measures, which in themselves are a form of economic terrorism and collective punishment that the Syrian people must be freed of. Madam President, we have listened to the statements delivered by some Western delegations, which have once again expressed their approach of hypocrisy and double standards. Some members of this Council have grown used to offering their own interpretations of the Charter and use them to serve their own goals and greed, including Article 51, which guarantees a basic right for all our states, namely the legitimate right to self-defense. The United States of America and Britain and France have launched repeated aggressions on my country, which is thousands of miles away from them. These three countries attacked my country collectively and individually based on a distorted interpretation of Article 51 and flimsy claims that are no more than baseless lies. They did not stop at that. Rather, they prevented the Security Council from discussing these attacks and from taking any action to uphold the principles of the Charter that these states are trying to replace with what they call a rules-based order. What the Islamic Republic of Iran did yesterday is a sound and practical exercise of the legitimate right to self-defense, as envisaged by the founding fathers of our organization and as guaranteed by Article 51 of the Charter. The Iranian response was an urgent necessity imposed by the Israeli occupation authorities' persistent crimes and hostile behavior. It was imposed by the fact that the three Western states who are permanent members of the Security Council have continued to obstruct the Security Council from taking any action to put an end to these violations or even simply condemn them. This was clearly manifest in the fact that the United States, France, and Britain obstructed the issuance by the Security Council of a press statement that condemns the Israeli terrorist attack against the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital, Damascus, which was a clear violation of all international conventions and rules which guarantee the inviolability and immunity of diplomatic premises and personnel. And what else is to be expected from those who, along with their allies in the NATO, barbarically shelled the Chinese embassy in Belgrade in 1999? In closing, Madam President, on the 25th of April, 1945, the San Francisco Conference inaugurated its proceedings, laying the groundwork for the United Nations and the Charter, which is the guiding star for our collective action. And in the Charter were basic principles that confirm the need to respect sovereignty and equality between member states regardless of their size. Today, and more than ever before, our countries must uphold these principles, because upholding them means the success of the United Nations and its mandate, and violating them means dismissing the rule of law and replacing it with the law of the jungle, with wars, and with instability. Syria is a founding member of the United Nations and continues to believe in this organization, in its principles, in its purposes. And we wish for it to undertake its role in maintaining international peace and security and in dealing with the root causes of the challenges that our country is facing, namely the Israeli occupation, which is an impediment to the peace and security in our countries and the prosperity of our peoples. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the Syrian Arab Republic.